Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Beatles Forever. The Beatles on this date. So let's see what's going on during this date of August the 4th. Comes from the Beatles Bible. George Harrison watches Ravi Shankar at the Hollywood Bowl, and it's dated Friday, August the 4th, 1967. On the fourth day of their U.S. trip, George Harrison, his wife Patty, Neil Aspinall, and Magic Alex Martis went to see Ravi Shankar perform at the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles. I found an additional story that came from pastdaily.com, and it was entitled Ravi Shankar Festival of Indian Music at the Hollywood Bowl 1967, and it was posted on June 14, 2015. Another rare and long concert this week, the Festival of Indian Music at the Hollywood Bowl, given on August the 4th, 1967, features a troupe of Indian musicians led by sitarist Ravi Shankar. The sudden huge popularity of music from India was due in no small part to George Harrison and his incorporating it into a number of Beatles songs starting in 1966. Ravi Shankar, a noted musician from a musical family and who was no overnight sensation, particularly in India, was catapulted to international fame via the Beatles' influence. Sitar sales were on the rise, and it seemed like everybody had a tabla and music from India because the most listened to soundtrack of the 1960s. And so, in order to capitalize on this sudden celebrity, a tour of the U.S. by notable Indian musicians led by Ravi Shankar began in 1967 with an appearance at the Hollywood Bowl. It was a widely publicized affair, with George Harrison playing an active role in getting the media interested and appearing with Shankar at a press conference in Los Angeles just ahead of the concert. And as promised, it was a star-studded affair, but it was Ravi Shankar's night, and a night for the troupe of musicians to finally bask in the recognition they had only gotten as local figures back home. The audience is polite, reverential, and the whole concert has an air of mystic aroma, not to mention clouds of incense. Not at all like the affairs of most concerts have become in recent years. Sadly, Ravi Shankar died in 2012 after a long, illustrious career, but in 1967, he was it, and ragas were all the rage. Next up, also from the Beatles Bible, is the recording of Mind Games, Out of the Blue, Rock and Roll People by John Lennon, and is dated August the 4th on a Saturday, 1973. The album sessions took place at New York's Record Plant Studio. The musicians for the basic backing tracks were Lennon, David Spinoza, guitar, Ken Asher, piano organ, Gordon Edwards, bass guitar, and Jim Keltner, drums, percussion. The first song recorded on this day was Mind Games. 2 tape reels were used. The first contained 3 takes, although the first was incomplete and broke down during the first verse. Take 2 was the master and featured John Lennon's clavinet and guide vocals, Spinoza's electric guitar, Asher's piano on 2 tracks, Edwards' bass guitar, and Keltner's drums on 3 tracks. John Lennon in 1980 stated that it was a fun track because the voice is in stereo with the seeming orchestra on it. It's just me playing 3 notes with a slide guitar, and the middle 8 is reggae. Try again to explain to American musicians what reggae was in 1973. Was pretty hard, but it's basically a reggae middle 8 if you listen to it. Then it said in the article, the second tape reel contained 4 additional takes, numbered 4 through 7, although not all were complete. Take 7 featured vocals, clavinet, guitar, piano, bass guitar, and drums, and was included in the expanded 2024 Mind Games reissue. The second song was Out of the Blue. 8 tape reels were used. The first was the second reel used for Mind Games, and it contained takes 1 and 2 of Out of the Blue. Both were incomplete, and the song was known at the time as You Came to Me. Reel 2 contained takes 3 through 10, but only 6 were complete. The third reel had a further 5 takes, 11 through 15. The last of these included in the expanded 2024 reissue of Mind Games. And takes 16 through 20 were recorded onto reel 4. Take 18 was temporarily marked best and was the first complete take with the same arrangement as the final version. Reel 5 contained takes 21 through 27, but it was only take 24 was complete, and reel 6 contained takes 28 to 30. Take 31 on the 7-tape reel was complete, but was followed by 2 false starts. The musicians then recorded the master version, tape 34. A further 4 takes were recorded on the 8th tape reel. Takes 36 and 38 were complete, but it was then decided that overdubs would be added on take 34. The final song recorded on this day was the outtake Rock and Roll People, which remained unreleased until 1986 Men Love Avenue, issued 6 years after Lennon's death. The album version was a composite edit of takes 6 and 7 from this day. The Mind Games recording sessions continued until August 20th, after which the songs were mixed and edited. Another story from the Beatles Bible on this date: Maureen Cox is born on August the 4th on a Sunday, 1946. Maureen Cox, a future wife of Ringo Starr. Maureen Cox, the future first wife of Ringo Starr, was born Mary Cox on August the 4th, 1946 in Liverpool. She was the only child of ship stewards Joseph Cox and his wife Florence Barrett. Mary changed her name to Maureen upon leaving school and embarking on a career as a hairdresser. She married the Beatles drummer on February 11, 1965, and changed her name to Maureen Starkey. The couple remained together until the 1970s. And I found some additional information about her in Wikipedia. In her early life, Mary Cox was born on August the 4th, 1946 in Liverpool, Lancashire, now Merseyside, England. She was the only child of Florence Cox and Joseph Cox, a ship steward. As a teenager, she remembered turning her school uniform around to make it look like a frock and paying a school friend 10 cigarettes a day to teach her how to smoke properly. She left convent school at 14, began her career as a trainee manicurist hairdresser at Ashley Dupree in Liverpool, and changed her name to Maureen, but was known as Mo to her friends. At 15, Cox became a regular at the Cavern Club and remembered the long queues and violent competition for access to the Beatles. Although Ringo, whom she called Richie for Richard, kissed her, he did not immediately notice her among his numerous fans. All the Beatles were supposed to be officially unattached for image purposes, and when Ringo started dating Cox in 1962, she was often threatened and once scratched in the face by a vicious rival. She even had to stop working as a hairdresser because of the threats. In September 1963, with her parents' permission, she traveled to Greece with Starr, Paul McCartney, and Jane Asher. On the eve of an international tour, Starr collapsed during a photo session at his studio in Barnes, London. He was stricken with 102 Fahrenheit fever and tonsillitis and rushed to the hospital, where Cox visited every day to help him recuperate. Afterwards, they became a monogamous couple. On January 20th, 1965, Starr proposed marriage to Cox at the Ad-Lib Club above the Prince Charles Theatre in London. Cox died at the age of 48 on December 30th, 1994, from complications from leukemia, following unsuccessful treatments at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle, Washington. She had received bone marrow from her son Zach, who then donated blood platelets and white blood cells. Maureen's 4 children, her 82-year-old mother, husband Tigret, and ex-husband Starr, were all at her bedside when she died. Following her death, Paul McCartney wrote the song Little Willow, which appears on his 10th solo studio album, Flaming Pie, released in 1997, in her memory and with a dedication to her children. The next story comes from the Beatles' own 1980, August the 7th. John begins recording Double Fantasy. John Lennon began recording his final album, Double Fantasy, at the Hit Factory in New York City. It would be released on November 17th, followed by the newly formed Geffen Records, and would win the 1982 Grammy Award for Album of the Year. The next story from the Beatles' own is 1969, August the 8th, Abbey Road photo session takes place. The photo session for the cover of the Beatles' Abbey Road album took place on the crossing outside Abbey Road Studios. Photographer Ian McMillan balanced the stepladder in the middle of the road, took 6 shots of John, Ringo, Paul, and George walking across the zebra crossing while a policeman held up the traffic. The band then returned to the studio and recorded overdubs on The End, I Want You, She's So Heavy, and Oh Darling. And then we get another perspective from the story from the Paul McCartney Project. On this day at approximately 10 a.m., the Beatles gathered outside EMI Studios to walk across the zebra crossing on Abbey Road. Photographer Ian McMillan was positioned on a stepladder in the middle of the street, equipped with a Hasselblad camera to capture what would become the iconic cover photo of their album Abbey Road. In the days leading up to the shoot, McMillan had taken a test photo with the 4 stand-ins to give the Beatles a preview of the intended composition. The white Volkswagen Beetle visible in the final image was already parked in place. It is believed its owner had left it there before going on holiday, so the car remained in place for several days. On the day of the shoot, McMillan took only 6 photographs of the Beatles crossing the street, alternating directions. From the 3rd photo outward, Paul removed his sandals. His barefoot appearance on the final album cover would later become one of the many clues cited by fans in support of the Paul is dead conspiracy theory, which gained momentum following the release of Abbey Road. Once the photo sessions ended at around 10:30 a.m., the Beatles decided it was too early to begin recording. Ringo went shopping. Paul took John back to his house, while George and Mal Evans visited Regent's Park Zoo. Meanwhile, McMillan set out to photograph a street sign for the album's back cover. He chose the corner of Abbey Road and Alexandra Road. During the shoot, a young woman in a blue dress walked through the frame, initially frustrating McMillan, though the candid moment was ultimately kept and featured on the back cover. The wall bearing the street sign was demolished several years later. In the days that followed, Apple Corps newly appointed creative director John Koch designed the album's packaging using McMillan's front and back photographs. In 1985, Paul McCartney returned to the zebra crossing to film scenes for the promotional video of Spies Like Us. He revisited the crossing again in 1993 with Ian McMillan to recreate the iconic image for his Paul is Live album. Paul said, "It was a hot day in London, a really nice hot day, and I wore sandals. I only had to walk around the corner to get to the crossing because I live nearby. For the photo session, I thought, I'll take my sandals off. Barefoot, nice warm day. I didn't feel like wearing shoes. When the album came out, people started looking at it and they said, 'Why has he got no shoes on? He's never done that before.'" And Paul said that from The Beatles Off the Record by Keith Badham, 2008. Then Paul said, "Back in the 60s, the wild rumor was that I was dead because of a certain alleged clues on the Abbey Road sleeve. Because I was barefoot, it being a scorching summer's day, it was taken as a bizarre mafia sign of death. Then they said that because of the number plate on the Volkswagen parked behind read 28 if, it meant I was being 27 at the time. I would have been 28 if I'd lived." And Paul said that from the liner notes of Paul is Live album Sampler, 1993. And then Ian McMillan stated from The Guardian, August 1989, "I remember we hired a policeman to hold up traffic while I was up on the ladder taking the pictures. The whole idea, I must say, was Paul McCartney's. A few days before the shoot, he drew a sketch of how he imagined the cover, which we executed almost exactly that day. I took a couple of shots of the Beatles crossing Abbey Road one way. We let some of the traffic go by and then walked across the road the other way. And I took a few more shots. The one eventually chosen for the cover was number 5 of 6. It was the only one that had their legs in a perfect V formation, which is what I wanted stylistically." And the last story also comes from, and it says, 1968, August the 9th, Paul records Mother Nature's Son. As the other Beatles had gone home for the evening at 2 a.m., Paul McCartney stayed behind and recorded Mother Nature's Son, taping 25 takes at Abbey Road Studios, and the song was included on the White Album. So I will end the video here. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so, it would help the channel to grow, as well as giving it a thumbs up. It's all a great help. And if you haven't clicked on the notification bell, if you could do that, it lets you know when a video is posted. More importantly, I want to wish everyone a good day, and tune in again soon for The Beatles Forever, The Beatles on this date. Thank you. Bye.